Thank you very much. I've got goosebumps from watching that video. I'm ready to play again. I haven't given up yet. I've currently taken up AFL just to add to the list. Can I please invite our other panellists up with me today? Andrew Slack, Tom Lawton, Elton Flatley and Maddie Shuck. Today we're going to talk through the pools that we have for Rugby World Cup, but before we get started on that, we'd like to start with Andrew. So just as a bit of an intro for those who don't know Andrew, he's a Villanova College boy, was a Southman during his club days. He made 133 Queensland appearances between 1973 and 1987, 87 appearances for Australia in 39 test matches. He was captain of the 1984 Wallabies Grand Slam Tour, and he is one of few Aussies that know what a Bledisloe Cup victory looks like in New Zealand. Had 1 year as the coach of the Reds, became the head of sport at 9, and was inducted into the Australian Rugby Union Hall of Fame in 2010. He will hate me saying this, but he is well known for probably being a key factor in the Wallabies' ascendancy into world-class status, mostly due to his tactical understanding and reading of the game and his ability to bring out the best in the players around him. Please welcome Andrew. This year in 2023, in September and October, we go into our 10th World Cup. Andrew actually participated in the very first World Cup in 1987. Andrew, could you talk to us a little bit about the history of the World Cup and what it was like playing in that first tournament and how it came about?
Well, it's different. Looking at that video then where Serge Blanco scored the try because Tom was too slow to tackle him. Had we had a television match official, there were 19 knock-ons in the run-up to that, so not that I'm bitter and twisted about it, but I just, most nights we think about it.
No, but Alan is.
Yeah. So things have changed on a lot of fronts, but I think the thing that's clearly it was amateur. So there were two amateur World Cups, 87 and 91. 95 was probably amateur, and just after it turned pro. I think the whole thing had been sorted before 95. I remember, we'd been playing, so I'd been playing for best part of 10 years for Australia prior to that first World Cup as an amateur, and I think everyone felt a World Cup was needed. The Bledisloe was big and the tours to the UK, but rugby for Australia particularly, actually, oddly enough, because we got so much opposition here, and not opposition, but other football codes, that, rugby had to have something special. Soccer had it, but soccer wasn't quite the force it is now, I don't think. So anyway, it had to happen, and there was a lot of resistance, but thankfully it did happen, and I was lucky enough to time my run, although I think if I'd have been a selector I mightn't have picked me in 87. I think my past was over. But anyway, I was delighted to be, still involved, just to say you could be in a World Cup. It wasn't a great one, in truth, not just because we lost. For some reason, I don't know, Alan might know the background of this. We played all our test matches at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and it was just a fantastic place to play footy, not the least of which you'd go in the bus with the team and all these people on the drink were there on your side. And so after you'd borrow a drink, you'd go and play. And there was a great atmosphere prior and post. For some reason, the World Cup in 1987 was stuck in a suburban ground on Parramatta Road called Concord Oval, which, housed 15,000 people, I think, as opposed to 40 at the cricket ground. The warm-up oval was the car park. So I'm not kidding when I say we're doing the warm-up before the World Cup semi-final, and we got to stop doing the back moves because some bloke wants to reverse park his Merc into the middle of the thing. Sorry, I'll just stop. So, it's beyond belief that sort of thing can happen now. And I remember Checker, the last World Cup, got a knockback from Rugby Australia because he wanted to take the team to America for a preparation for the World Cup, and they went somewhere else. Anyway, they spent a bucket load on the preparation. We played South Korea at Ballymore That was our warm-up. I scored 2 tries. I've got the video if you want.
Nice.
So that was it. That was our preparation. But we were amateurs. We had jobs. We sort of didn't have families. There was we didn't. No one was married really. I can't remember. There weren't many children around, apart from Tom.
That you know of.
Seriously. So it was such a different vibe, and now kids are a part of professional sport, but it's because of the professional bit. All my tours, Stan Pilecki had kids, but a few others were. I don't remember any. So our focus was the boys and playing and mucking around. So for that World Cup, we all went to Sydney. We were based in Sydney, and so we're there for 5 or 6 weeks, and we couldn't work. Like Brisbane guys couldn't work, and it was not an ideal situation to get into a World Cup. The difference between now and then, though, is there were probably 4 chances. Alan might disagree, Turtle might, but 4 chances who were going to win it, maybe 5. Now I think you've got 8 or 9, which is wonderful for the game, and why the World Cup needed to be a necessity. So bucket load of changes, some for the better, some for the worse. I could prattle on, but we got 3 other people. But we were glad to be a part of it. I'm disappointed about not getting to the final. We were probably, I reckon we were a year past our best, maybe.
Yeah.
So who knows how it would have gone against the All Blacks at Eden Park, but who knows?
Who knows? Thank you, Andrew. That's amazing. And I can assure you I haven't done this deliberately. You'll see one chair missing here. Our first speaker, I'd like to invite Michael Collins up to the stage. If you can come up, Michael. So Michael is a loose head prop. And it's not because I'm bitter about losing 51 Bledisloe Cups and 21 in a row this year, Michael, at all. As the 156 games for Waikato Chiefs, he's also played in the UK for London Irish and Glasgow Warriors. Michael has played in New Zealand schools teams, New Zealand under-19s, New Zealand under-21s, New Zealand Barbarians and New Zealand 15s. But that one elusive title of playing for the All Blacks has just missed. And after his playing days, Michael moved into the high-performance position of Taranaki. And under his guidance there, I think in your second year you won the NPC with Taranaki, and then moved into the CEO role, and then on to CEO of the Chiefs. We have the privilege at Bond University Rugby Club now of having Michael come over and head up as Director of Sport for Bond University, so please welcome Michael. And again, not bitter about the Bledisloe Cups at all, no.
No, and I'm not bitter about not playing for the All Blacks either.
Yeah,
but we all have to move on.
Yeah. I haven't quite moved on yet. So talking to Pool A, Michael, obviously we've got New Zealand, France, Italy. First opening game of the World Cup, New Zealand, France. That's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest game in the pool by far. Obviously, there's 3 teams. Well, there's 2 teams in there, and because of my relationship with Luca Luisi, I have to acknowledge Italy. They're probably a dark horse to put pressure on either France or New Zealand, but that first game in that pool is a major game. It's going to be an interesting game. The All Blacks, probably under Ian Foster, have got nothing to lose. He's already lost his job, he's been replaced, so they're playing like a team with a little bit of freedom. And they've sort of released the shackles a bit. France will be interesting. They're a great team. France or Ireland for me are probably 2 of the best teams in the competition. But as we saw in New Zealand in 2011, there's a real weight of expectations if you're the host nation. I know from playing against French teams and playing in France, the home teams always seem to win. So whether that's going to translate into the international game, I don't know. But I know that there'll be pressure on the French because they are probably one of the best performed teams in the world. But for me, that game is probably the most important game in that pool, and then probably the games against Italy are probably the next important.
It's interesting having that game front up and then having, the games against Uruguay and Namibia. Do you think that's going to set them up better, or would you rather have had that French game later on?
Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it, around cohesion of the team, and as we've seen in the Northern Tours, you can't play 4 or 5 big Test matches in a row, so you have to rotate your players through who can do that best. And looking at the pools and the quarterfinals, some teams have got a gap of 13 or 14 days between their last pool game and the first quarterfinal. So whatever team have come up with the best strategy to actually keep their players engaged, keep them fresh, and trying to keep them on that winning way will do the best.
So we checked the sports bet tab earlier. New Zealand and France are sitting equal favourites at $3.70. They've got to play each other. Despite New Zealand's dominance over Australia, it's probably a World Cup that New Zealand goes into where they're not, even though sports bet says they are, they haven't probably been as dominant as they have been previously. Yeah,
no, 100% correct. I think the past month they've probably played better than what they have since probably before the 2019 World Cup. But on this side of the draw, you've got South Africa, Ireland, France and New Zealand. They're all going to meet in the quarterfinals if they progress to the quarterfinals. So it's going to be extremely tough for all 4 of those teams. They're probably France and Ireland are the form horses. South Africa, a really good World Cup team. They play a really good World Cup style of play. And New Zealand on their day can beat anyone. Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope that... No, I won't say. Thank you. Moving on to Pool B, we've got the lovely Tom Lawton. Oh, hang on. No, who have I got? I've skipped a page. Sorry, Tom. Tom Lawton, hooker. It says you're 118 kilos in your playing days. He's shrunk a little. Born in Darwin, probably explains a little.
No, thanks to my mum.
Tom played Wallaby hooker from 1983 to 1992. He has the unusual distinction of having played for the Wallabies before playing for his state. I think that was off the back of an under-21s tour that was quite successful for you. 42 games for Queensland. You debuted in France for the Wallabies in 1983. You then moved on to play for Natal and won the Currie Cup over there, so you've got an insight into South African rugby culture. Tom, as mentioned before by Andrew, is an integral member of the famous Grand Slam Wallabies tour of 1984 and the Bledisloe Cup winning side of 1986. You also played in the inaugural World Cup of 1987, and Tom's going to give us some insight into Pool B.
Yeah, no problem. These are teams that are, close to my heart. So that playing in South Africa and getting an understanding of the South African psyche. I was talking to a mate outside with regard to the similarities between Australians and South Africans in the way they approach the game. South Africa in the World Cup tends to have a similar trait to Australia in terms of our ability to be able to play tournament rugby. So everyone talks about the attrition rate of good players and the attrition rate of teams during a tournament that's as heavily combative as a World Cup is. Australia seems to be able to manage injuries and produce good games when we need to. We've got a dream run in the competition, so we've got to take advantage of that. But South Africa, if I can just sort of concentrate on them, they are spectacular because of their large, heavy, fast bodies. When they've got tall, heavy bodies in the back row, they tend to do very, very well because they're consistently good in the skill of the game going wide. But what it gives them, though, same as every other team, when you've got an advantage, such an enormous advantage in terms of blowing people out of rucks and mauls and getting good turnover ball purely because of the size of the bodies, then all of a sudden the tempo of the game, the enthusiasm and the courage of the players increases, and they're very, very difficult to beat. So we saw glimpses of that when they played against the All Blacks. So, and as I think as Mike said earlier, this is such a wide open competition. South Africa's got a distinct advantage because of their size and their capability to be able to produce good results on a continuous basis. One of the interesting things about World Cups is that you've got to be able to produce, not only have you got to be able to produce the right the right games, but you've got to have the ability to be able to take advantage of momentum. All of these teams, anyone that wins a game is going to have a certain amount of luck, and the luck that comes in that game contributes to the courage and to the confidence of the players, and that's what's going to get you through. You can go through lad breaks and they can tell you who the odds are and who's going to win, and it's all about New Zealand, it's all about South Africa and whatever. We're all old enough that we've seen enough rugby games, seen enough World Cups to know that it's taking advantage of the opportunity when it arises. I mean, in 2011, France should have beaten New Zealand, and in my opinion did. But New Zealand just kept going and going and going and ground it out and won the game. Then that's what you've got to do at that end. South Africa's got the capability of winning, of course they do. Ireland's got the capability of winning, but Ireland's taken a different route. Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Argentina for that matter as well, have all taken the 5, 6, 7 game preparation for the World Cup. Ireland's going in playing 3. They've gone to Portugal at the moment. They're in Portugal at the moment, doing what they do in Portugal, training out of sight, out of mind. The thing I love about Ireland is their close personal confidence that they can beat anyone, and I love that because they're not cocky. They don't talk about themselves very often. No one's writing books about themselves. They just get on with it and they run on, and they've got a silent but strong sense of commitment to winning the game. And I know that everyone has that, but the Irish, with the team that they've got and the depth that they've got for this World Cup, are going to be extremely difficult. They've got an enormous opportunity to get themselves to the final. The way I've looked at the way the draw is, I mean, I'll talk about Scotland a little bit as well. I mean, the Scots are spoilers just like Argentina are spoilers. Let me rephrase that. The Scots are spoilers the way Argentina used to be spoilers. Argentina are going to be a headache for any team they play against in this World Cup. These guys are seriously good players now. They've got big bodies. They've got big bodies that keep coming up and coming up. Their defence is fantastic, and that's what wins them games. They just knock people over for 80 minutes. And if the game goes for another 10 minutes, then they go for another 10 minutes. They come out of the ground to tackle people. So defence against Argentina is their where it used to be scrummaging, now it's their defence, and they're really good at that. But if I can just sort of diverse a little bit with regard to Australia's got a great opportunity to get themselves to a semi-final. That's where it's going to be. They either play France or New Zealand in that semi-final, and the winner of that gets to the final. Everybody else has got to grind themselves. You talk about New Zealand and South Africa. The New Zealand and France in that first game is going to dictate who comes first and second in that pool. If France has their way, then it doesn't give them an easier run, but it gives them the momentum that they need. And France in France is just ridiculously impossible. Give them a sniff of winning a competition like that, and the fervour and the backing and the way that they play is just going to be almost unbeatable. And that's what you've got to look at. You've just got to look at how that draw goes. If it goes predictably, then they'll grind out. The thing I'll finish on, because I'm just talking shit, but the thing I will finish on, sorry Alan, I'm not allowed to swear anymore. The thing I will finish on is that teams. I've just lost my train of thought now.
Teams, passion, France, play with passion, get momentum. I was listening.
No, I'll pick myself now too because of the. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's my goal. I had a good point to make. I'm just not drunk enough.
Tom being Tom. He's on Darwin time. You can come back to it if you think of a lady. You still got the microphone. Next up, I'd like to introduce Elton Flatley. So Elton, obviously a brothers man from Brisbane, played 114 times for Queensland, 39 tests for Australia, 211 points for the Wallabies. He debuted against England in 1997. And I think your first World Cup was 2003. It was very nice of them to put the video up there of Johnny Wilkinson kicking that kick. I'm sure you cheered when you saw that one. Dry eye. Elton also still holds the record for the fastest ever Rugby Union World Cup try of 18 seconds, which he scored against Romania in 2003 at Suncorp Stadium. Did you know that?
Rugby powerhouse.
Yes, that's it, exactly. Elton is also part of the Surface Rugby 50 Club, and his son Josh plays here in the juniors. Please welcome Elton.
Thank you. It's always good to be here. It's great Alan could come here to such an event like this. It's a great rugby man, so thanks for donating your time, Alan. That's good.
We obviously saw you're going to speak to Pool C, which Australia-Wales sit in. The team announced some controversial choices, some controversial omissions, a bit of a shock captaincy announcement, and only won 5/8. Are you really that good?
Well, Eddie, as a selector, I've always thought he's a good selector because he used to pick me. So, but he's definitely made some interesting calls, like only sort of one specialist 10, and one utility. So that's obviously a concern. Obviously made it, Will Skelton, the captain, that was a bit out of the blue. But I think what he's done is just put a line through the sand, and we're going with the youth. And ideally in a World Cup, that's probably not the recipe you'd want. You'd want some established, in the halves, some senior players, and a mix of youth. But so I think he's just thrown all that out of the book, and he's just gone with
He's done an Eddie.
He's done an Eddie, and so Eddie's just like he's running the show there. Obviously, as the captain, and I suppose Eddie will live and die on the sword. So that's just the way it works.
And it might be one to throw to all of you. People talk about Test match rugby being different to World Cup rugby, and the passion, the moment, the occasion of a World Cup. Do you think that the youthful exuberance might actually be the edge? That's what he's talked to.
Yeah, I would like to hope so. Obviously youth brings a lot of passion. They train hard, but you do, in those big moments in big games, you do look for people. We had John Eales, George Gregan. And in those moments, you sort of look for those people, and I think that's where we're going to struggle. And some of, I think I'll go to the pool. We've got a great draw. The Wallabies have got a ripper draw if we're good enough to get out of the pool. So, like I think we play Georgia first. We've got a warm-up game against the French. Play Georgia, and Georgia are no easy beats either. They've beaten Italy and Wales the last couple of years. A nation that is really growing their rugby. A lot of their players play in France, so they're seasoned professionals. So they won't be easy beats. Into Fiji, that's a danger game. Obviously, we all know we've all played against the Fijians, and you can't let them get on the roll. The first 20, 30 minutes, you've got to play. You've got to win the contact. You've got to kick well. Set pieces got to be good, and you just can't let them get on the front foot. They've got some amazing athletes in the back line, and big and strong and fast. If they get on that roll, well, it's danger. And then we're into the Wales game. So obviously Wales and Fiji are the big games at the pool. And hopefully we win those, and we can put the toes up for a couple of weeks against Portugal and enjoy a bit of French culture and a few red wines and things like that. So
you're talking about yourself now. Yeah. And then obviously we've got the crossover with Pool D, which has already been mentioned is a bit of an advantageous crossover through the quarterfinals.
Yeah, like the quarterfinals, once again, that's where the pool comes in. Looks like if we get through, you'll play an England or Argentina. And if we're good enough, we win that, and you're into a semi-final, and the quarter-final between those four countries up in Paris, they're going to bash the shit out of each other. So,
yeah.
So we'll hope if we get through and into a semi-final, who knows what happens in tournament rugby. But I would like personally to have a few more senior players in that group that, as we're talking about, in those big moments that you're looking for. But as an Australian, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they go, and we wish them all the best.
Time will tell. I'd now like to introduce Maddie Shuck to you. So Maddie grew up in Redlands, watching her brother play rugby. Of course, for girls, there was no rugby between the years of 12 and 18 years old. So she had to wait until her first game for East in Brisbane in 2010 and happened to win a premiership that year. Go the Tigers. Her representative career started in sevens, which is unusual given that she's now a front row player for the Wallaroos. Let's fast like you, Tommy. He's not even listening. So Maddie started her playing career, then moved into the sevens, toured the world with Tribe Sevens, captaining her university sevens team, and then won the Aon Sevens series with Bond University Rugby Club. Maddie is one of the most resilient players I know. I've coached her in the Indigenous Sevens team and she does not give up. So in the times where she didn't make those teams, she just went back to the drawing board and worked on the things that would get her to her debut for the Wallaroos in 2022, and I was personally shed a tear when you ran out on that field against Fiji, and then attended her first World Cup in New Zealand that same year. She now has 7 caps for the Wallaroos and 17 caps for Queensland. Please welcome Maddie Shaw. Thank you for having me. Now, Maddie's had a bit of a look at Pool D draw, where we have England, Japan, Argentina, Samoa and Chile. What are your thoughts on the pool?
So, as Tom alluded to before, I'm predicting Argentina to top it, and we won't have to wait too long to see, because it's obviously England versus Argentina first up. Argentina have been very consistent all the way through. They've got themselves a good coach. They're a headache for most teams. They're very physical, they're very fast. And England, unlike their women's side from last year, haven't had the best prep ever. So mediocre performance in the Six Nations and then the recent loss to Wales. I honestly predict Argentina to top them in that first game. I'm also a little bit biased towards Japan. I love watching Japan in World Cup. They always cause an upset. And we got to see a clip of it before where they beat South Africa in the 2019 World Cup. So I predict to see another upset with Japan, maybe over England.
No, England in the quarterfinals.
Like I said, they're able to do it, and I've got money that they probably will. Samoa have done a lot of good recruitment. They've got 3 former All Blacks. They've got a former Wallaby in their side. They've been very consistent and working towards probably a positive preparation. And this is Chile's first World Cup. They've worked very hard over the last sort of decade. I'm just going to enjoy watching them finally make the world stage and see where they need to get to and what that's going to do for Chile rugby back home for the next couple of years.
Amazing. So you're predicting a pretty open pool, anything's up for grabs.
Yeah. So England also made some risks with their squad selection. They've gone with one specialist, number 8, who hasn't played since April due to some injuries and not being in form, and they've ditched their a very consistent centre who's played 35 of the 37 last test matches for England. They've ditched him completely, so I'm not sure what they're thinking. But yeah, my prediction's Argentina. It's going to cause a bit of headache.
There you go. You've heard it here. We had a look at a bit of the poll in terms of sports bet. New Zealand and France favourites at $3.70. South Africa at $5.20. Ireland at $6, England at $10.50, so sports bet's following your call there, Maddie, and Australia at $11, so he's hoping the youthful exuberance gets us over the line. Argentina, a long shot at $23, just noted, might be a good bet. And that's it for the panel, so can you please thank these amazing guys, but before they go, I'm just going to do a quick poll of the crowd. Panel included, you're not allowed to vote. Who is voting? Winners of the 2023 World Cup, hands up if you think New Zealand. He didn't vote. France. Oh, not many. Italy, Luca, is that just you? Yeah. South Africa. Yeah, you for South Africa. 2 hands up. Only counts as 1 vote. Ireland. Oh, all right. Irish is still in there with a chance. Wales. No one for Wales. All right. Australia. Awesome. England. Hey, they're faithful. You're hurting from those comments, aren't you? And Argentina. Couple for Argentina, awesome. Miscellaneous other. All right, well, all we can tell from that is somebody's going to be sad and hopefully it's not us.